everybody. I wanted to do a couple more examples of dealing with special right triangles. So on the right side of the screen I have the same thing as in the prior video. When you have a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, the sides go in order from smallest to largest, x, x, x square root 2. So what that means is if you go from one of the smaller sides to the hypotenuse, you have to multiply by the square root of 2. Whereas if you go from the hypotenuse to one of the smaller sides, you divide by the square root of 2. Now, since this problem doesn't involve a 30, 60, 90, I'm not going to go over that one quite yet. So, we have two 45, 45, 90 triangles stuck together, and the only information we're given is the hypotenuse of the triangle on the left. So to get from the hypotenuse to the one of the legs, we have to divide by the square root of 2. So I'm going to divide 5 by the square root of 2. Now, normally, we don't like square roots in the denominator of a fraction, so I'd want to rationalize to fix that. However, I'm not going to worry about fixing that until the end of the problem, unless there was a good reason to do so. Now, since this leg is 5 over the square root of 2, that means this leg is also 5 over the square root of 2, because a 45, 45, 90 is isosceles, meaning the two legs have to be congruent. So, 5 square root 2 is one of the legs of the triangle on the left. However, it's the hypotenuse of the triangle on the right. Notice this is across from the 90-degree angle. So in the triangle on the right, 5 over the square root of 2 is the hypotenuse, and we want to go to one of the legs. So we have to get smaller, meaning we have to divide by the square root of 2. So we're going to take 5 over the square root of 2, and we're going to divide by the square root of 2 again. And remember, dividing by a number is multiplying by the reciprocal. So multiplying by 1 over the square root of 2, that's dividing by the square root of 2. So what that means is x is 5 over root 2 times root 2 is just 2. So x is 5 halves. Alright, so that's an example of two 45, 45, 90 triangles stuck together. I think the next example is two 30, 60, 90 triangles stuck together. Let's see. So, with 30, 60, 90 triangles, life's a little bit more complicated because the three sides are different. The smallest side we'll call x. To get from the smallest side to the other leg, the medium side, we have to multiply by the square root of 3. To get from the smallest side to the hypotenuse, we multiply by 2. And then to get smaller, you divide, of course. Now, one thing to notice about 30, 60, 90 triangles, we typically don't move between the medium side and the hypotenuse. You could do this in one step, but really you'd just be performing 2 steps in one. So base everything on 30, 60, 90 triangles from the smallest side. So let's attack this problem. So here we have 7 times the square root of 2. This is the largest side because it's across from the 90-degree angle. So we want to go from the hypotenuse to the smallest side. Remember, you usually don't navigate between the hypotenuse and the middle side. So to get from the hypotenuse to the smallest side, we have to divide by 2. So we're going to have 7 square root 2 divide by 2. And now what about the medium side? Well, to get from the small to the medium, you multiply by the square root of 3. So the medium side is going to be 7 times the square root of 6 over 2. When we multiply by the square root of 3, the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. So the smallest side in the top triangle is 7 square root 6 over 2. That's the smallest. And now we want to go from the smallest to the hypotenuse. So we have to multiply by 2. Well, that's easy enough. It's just 7 times the square root of 6. When we multiply by 2, the 2 canceled. So that's two 30, 60, 90 triangles stuck together. We're going to do one more example where we have one of each type of triangle. So here we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle on the left, and we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle on the right. And we're starting with the hypotenuse of the 30, 60, 90. So we're starting here with 2x. To get to the small side, I divide by 2. So the smallest side is 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So now, in the 45, 45, 90 triangle, the side labeled with 4 is the hypotenuse. So to get from the hypotenuse to one of the legs, we divide by the square root of 2. So we have 4 divided by the square root of 2. Now this is a case where we have a square root in the bottom. We're at the end of the problem, so we want to fix this. And the trick to rationalizing, if you'll remember, is you multiply by the square root of 2 in the top and the bottom. So if you do that, in the top we have 4 times the square root of 2. In the bottom you have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which is just 2. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this 4 divided by this 2 was 2. And we still had the square root of 2. So the answer to the question, x is equal to 2 root 2. Anyway, hope this video helped. I did want a little bit more practice with special right triangles because they're pretty important.